Looking ahead.
And looking ahead this week, we start with a project that I'm very fascinated by, Chad. And when I found it, I had to put it on this list. And we're talking about mind reading. Yes, mind reading. And we're not talking about the kind where you go to a psychic and you sit in front of them and they tell you a horoscope. We're talking about using technology to analyze brain waves.
Wow.
So basically what happened is that a team from the University of California, San Francisco, is busy working on a machine learning solution that aims to translate neural signals into English text while the person is reading out loud. So what they're trying to do is match, can they understand when you say a certain word, is there a certain brain kind of function or brain wave that happens that they can match up and do pattern recognition, right? So for example, a person who's undergoing surgery for epilepsy, for example, will have electrodes attached to their brain, and the researchers will capture that neural activity as that person reads out loud, right? That model will then try and match the words to those neural waves and understand like what is happening in the brain. And Chad, it sounds a little bit like science fiction. It sounds a bit out there, but the results have been surprisingly good. According to this study, they achieved a 97% success rate when trained on one person reading 50 sentences with a vocabulary of 250 words. Right, so that's a staggering amount of accuracy for that kind of use case, and of course it's nothing compared to the full vocab of the English language. Like English has got about 170,000 words, but just for a 250 word data set and a 50 sentence reading out loud, they had a 97% success rate as to match those brain waves to those words. So that is a really, really staggering breakthrough in the kind of the technology, and kind of it says a lot about what's to come for this sort of thing. Obviously, speech patterns don't necessarily equate to thought, right? We can think things without saying them, and when we say things, it kind of changes that. But it does feel like we're one step closer to being able to understand thought and be able to measure thought and maybe even read someone's mind. I thought it was fascinating.
It is fascinating, and there's so many questions that come to my mind of such an experiment. Obviously, this is now currently in a lab, and you have to have those electrodes in your brain. But the next question is, how does this get rolled out? Is there a type of sensor that would allow these types of frequencies to be picked up just on the surface of your skull? And also just in terms of the implications. So if you, for example, were looking at a solution for somebody who is deaf or, for example, can't talk or whatever the case is, does that person need to actually be able to command the English language? Or is there a kind of universal brain type language that can be translated into other languages? Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, without a doubt. And there's lots of questions that are arising from this. I think everyone's talking about Elon Musk's company Neuralink, which is trying to put like a brain interface into your brain. So some sort of chip or some sort of lace interface that sits on your brain and performs the role of those electrodes. So I think we're going that route. And I think in a couple of years' time, we might be talking about those sorts of things. But like you say, the implications for this are very big in the medical field, giving people the ability to communicate where they previously haven't been able to. Obviously, we've seen hearing aids and those sorts of things be a real boon to people who struggle with that stuff and been born with deformalities and that sort of thing. And so there's huge medical implications here, and we're going to have to wait and see whether this kind of carries forward. Obviously, this is one study, so there's still a lot of work to do, and it's in a very controlled environment. But it's exciting for the future of AI and for the future of what this might mean to help people communicate beyond traditional speech.
Absolutely fascinating, and such a positive story about how tech is making the world a better place.